Episode number 170.
But typically in a large company, you're much more involved in the internal politics than you are what are we doing for our clients? And that just isn't interesting to me.
Welcome to the Be Real Show with Travis Too Tall and Huff, where we talk about life, dreams, social media, and business.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Be Real Show with Travis Too Tall and Huff. Folks, I'm fired up today because we are going to boom with my man and our featured guest, Bill Bice. Bill, are you ready to be real?
I know no other way to be.
Oh, yeah. So my man, Bill Bice, has always been an entrepreneur, starting his first business at the age of 14. And then at 18, he actually started a business called ProLaw Software, which is the first integrated ERP for law firms. And he actually cashed out, folks, and sold that company to Thomson Reuters. And then Bill became a VC, as we all kind of maybe hope to or want to, investing in companies and helping invest in high-tech and high-growth companies throughout the Southwest. And then along the journey here, he got frustrated in trying to get some great marketing going for his companies. So he decided to tackle that problem himself. And as a programmer at heart, Bill founded BoomTime, tackling marketing as a technology problem. And it turns out, when you look at the data, really good things happen, my man. So I love this intro, and a pleasure to have you on the show today, Bill.
That is an awesome summary. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm curious into your first business here at 18. Well, your very first business was at 14, putting together road races and getting corporate sponsors. But then at 18, you got the big one with the ProLaw Software. What made you create that business? What gave you that insight?
Well, I sort of stumbled into it. There wasn't a lot of strategy at 18, but the beautiful thing about being 18 is you're not smart enough to know what you can't do.
Right.
So I would walk into the corner office of the managing partner at a law firm and convince him to buy the software that I was writing the night before.
Wow.
And so it was a trial by fire and learning how to sell and market.
Wow. And so then you eventually sold the company, obviously got some cash, cashed out, and then you decided you wanted to become a VC.
Yeah, and it's really just a way to do what I was going to do anyway, which is turn around and create more companies. And so I recently went down through the list, and I've either built or been part of investing and advising 27 companies.
Nice.
And as you mentioned, the thing that so you do all that really hard work to create a great product or service, but then it really comes down to go to market, whether that pays off or not.
Absolutely.
There were, just an obvious pattern, which is that the times when we really focused on go to market and did well with that, of course, we got a much better result. But it's really frustrating getting great marketing for your business.
Right. And there's the problem that I see too is that there's so many options, right? I mean, there's just so many different tools and automation and firms and online services. And I mean, it just seems overwhelming.
Yeah, I often joke about that because if you want help with the marketing for your business, there are literally thousands of options, which is just another way of saying that nobody's actually figured out how to do it well.
Right. Well, then my curiosity is then, what gave you this epiphany? How long ago did you create BoomTime?
Yeah, so we started BoomTime almost 6 years ago.
Nice. Okay.
And it really came out of that experience of just the frustration of how do you get great marketing. It's such a confusing area. There's way too many options, and marketing is something you go into if you don't want people to know what you do. And I just really wanted to change that. And my route into that was following the data. So we have really an amazing circumstance with marketing. So there's this quote that's associated with John Wanamaker. I'm not sure he ever actually said it, but it was the famous, I know half my advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half.
Right.
We actually have the opposite problem now, which is if we want it, we have data on, within the digital marketing arena, which as far as I'm concerned is the vast majority of marketing at this point. We now have data on absolutely every piece of engagement that we're creating. We can trace everything down. So now we're swimming in data, and the hard part is how do you turn that into actionable information where you can constantly iterate and get better and better. And that's where I saw the opportunity.
Got you. And so who would be typically your customer on Boom Time? What kind of businesses typically, gravitate towards such a service?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work in B2C, but our real focus today is on the B2B side, particularly, larger ticket, high impact purchase decisions. There's often, multiple decision makers involved. It's a very content and key insight driven approach to marketing.
And so will like a chief of marketing officer or a marketing officer then be the one that kind of works with this service, or is it a service that you guys work and do the service for them?
Well, it's both. So in a smaller company, we're often working with the CEO or the VP of sales, and we are the marketing department. In a larger company, we work for the CMO and really provide execution bandwidth, because the thing that you see right away when you spend time in the analytics is that the thing that makes marketing really work is that really hard day-to-day in the trenches work. And it's the stuff that's so difficult to get done because it takes a real focus to just make that happen day in and day out. And it's really tough to build all of the pieces you need for that internally. You've got to have a fairly large company to build a large enough staff to be able to execute on that. So there's a real benefit in being able to do that with scale and efficiency across hundreds of companies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. And then, like you said, if you get that go-to market going and they show some traction, that's when you're going to, be able to exit on that investment, right?
Well, exactly. And
well, that's the hope.
The joy for me, I mean, the thing that I love about this is that small business is what really drives our economy. It's what drives employment. And yet there's such a disconnect between the level of sophistication in the marketing of small businesses versus their large competitors. And I think we've got to level that playing field if small business is going to continue to be the driver that it has always been of our economy.
Right. And so you've built and invested in a lot of businesses. And what is one of the biggest challenges you're facing right now?
Well, on the investing side, it's, this is actually a great time to take a company to market and sell it because valuations are at an all-time high.
Right.
So my solution to that problem for what I do personally is to be involved in the ground up in helping entrepreneurs build their companies, because at this point, if you get involved later, the valuations are just kind of crazy. Yeah. But for those of us that are on the entrepreneurial side, that's just such an awesome place to be. So if you're thinking about selling your company, now is a great time to do that.
Now's a great time. And I'm just curious, what is your process on getting a company sold? I mean, how does that work? Do you work with a broker? Do you go directly to a company? How does that typically work?
I've created a lot of sort of middle market companies, the high 7-figure, middle 8-figure kind of companies, and it's actually difficult to get a good exit from that kind of company. So if you're a really good investment banker, then the same amount of effort you can put into selling doing a $500 million deal as it takes to do a $50 million deal.
Right.
That's where you tend to gravitate towards. So if you are like the vast majority of businesses and you have built up into that, 7-figure revenue place and you want to sell the company, a lot of times you almost have to do it yourself. And the challenge with that is that you're selling to people who that's what they do day in and day out. So for you, this is a one-time big transaction. And for them, they're professionals. They're doing this all day long.
Right.
So it really is great if you can get professional help. It's just tougher on smaller companies.
And who would you typically want to sell to? Like, who would be the person you typically sell to? Is it another venture capital firm? Is it big, a bigger company like a Google or something like that comes and swoops in? And
Well, the strategic acquisition is always best because you're going to get a higher valuation typically.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much of the M&A activity that's being driven by PE firms at this point that is a pretty common exit. And you sell a $5 or $10 million revenue company to a PE firm that then plugs that together with several more companies, and you get a much higher valuation from the $50 million total than you did from each individual $5 million company.
Got you. So that's how they do it, is they package it up.
They do. And so one of the best things you can do is really, there's an inflection point in most markets where getting to 10 million in revenue really changes the valuation of your company. So, that really gets us back to that investment in marketing, because if you put that focus and you create that growth, it really communicates something that you've gotten to an 8-figure company in terms of the sophistication of the management internally, the acceptance in the market. It makes a dramatic difference on the valuation that you get. So if that's within your reach, then you want to push hard and get there.
And get that marketing going. So then that leads into my next question is, what is one of the most common mistakes you're seeing right now in people in marketing?
That would be a long list.
Yeah, right.
But I'm going to pick one that I think is kind of interesting, because I'm such a fan of marketing automation, because it's just absolutely necessary if you're going to get scale and efficiency in your marketing. But ironically, one of the things that gets automated the most causes the most challenges, which is, social media is like always the first thing that marketing automation gets applied to.
Right.
And my philosophy is 90% of your effort should be in the content. You can't make up for lousy content with any form of tactic. You've got to have great content. And the number one mistake in that content is talking about yourself as opposed to the challenges that your audience is facing.
Right.
And, there's some irony there. It's marketing, right? We're supposed to be promoting ourselves, but the best way to do that is to provide your audience, your prospective clients with great insights. And if you're really going to put that effort into creating great content, then go the extra mile. And instead of, using Hootsuite or Buffer or whatever to automate all of your posts, do them for real on the fly when you want them to go out.
Right.
So we see about twice as much engagement from natural posts as automated posts.
Oh yeah. It's not even comparable. Those platforms have sniffed out those, anytime you're posting from Sprout Social, Hootsuite, Buffer, doesn't matter what the tool is. Those platforms, the social networks, have figured this out, folks, and they give you less organic reach because you have that scheduling. So even, in fact, obviously just use the Facebook scheduler if you're using that. There's a new whole creator studio they've created now, making it easier to post across multiple pages if you manage that, if you're an agency or you're managing multiple clients. But yeah, I mean, we've absolutely seen it be insane. The same post, in fact, a few times with tests that we've done, and it comes in. Yeah, it is easy to automate. It is easy to kind of schedule everything in advance using those tools. But the problem is you don't get the full value for that post. If you're doing some great content, you're not going to get the full exposure because they've sniffed that out, folks. They've sniffed out those the algorithms have sniffed out those tools, and they give you less reach. Bottom line. We truly appreciate your insights, Bill, my man. Now we are about to take you into our top 10. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Apple or Android?
Apple. Early Apple adopter.
Nice. Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Instagram or Twitter?
Neither. Is that an option? Can I say neither?
Do you do any social platforms, or
I'm all about LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to LinkedIn. Now owned by Microsoft. Chicken, steak, or fish?
I've got to go for neither on that one too. Although if the right fish, good salmon, that'll work.
Do you primarily eat like a vegetarian diet?
No, but thanks to my wife, I eat much more healthier than I would if I were left to just sort of wander the universe on my own.
Absolutely. Thank goodness for our partners, right? It's keeping us accountable here.
Yes.
What do you think about that Beyond Meat? Have you ever tried that?
I have not, but I actually like a lot of the alternative meats. They've gotten so much better.
Yeah, they're tasty.
the money in that field, that IPO, that's just ridiculous.
I know. I got lucky. I started buying it like in the 60s, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty high. But usually on the IPO day, they kind of have a huge bump anyways. It's just kind of part of the price when they show it on the ticker. It's not really relevant because the average investor couldn't have got in at that earlier price. It's that you'd have big money, right?
Right.
When they set the IPO like 22, and all of a sudden like Chewy.com right now is like, 60% up today. It's only up $14, but that's because the beginning people of the public started to buy it. So you can never really get that 22 price unless you had like $10 million or more, So, but I always find it interesting because Beyond Meat, man, they're going gangbusters.
Good for you. That's going to pay off.
I hope so. We'll just keep holding. We'll keep holding. I'm not going to buy anymore, but we're good with what we have, and we'll just keep on holding and looking at other things here. Laptop or an iPhone?
I'm sorry. What was the first option?
A laptop or an iPhone?
I actually so my iPad has really become my primary device. So
really,
I keep phone in my pocket. I have a MacBook, but as much as I can, I use my iPad. You don't have to put away on the plane. You can actually use it in the little cramped seats that we all have to live with these days.
Right.
The vast majority of what I need to do. I mean, I kind of wish I was still coding, but for everything that I actually do, iPad is just awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing actually, like what you can get done now on these devices that are not a desktop or a laptop.
Really looking forward to iOS 13 and some of the new multitasking stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, Apple's just constantly making it better, man. Even Siri's getting better. I mean, I've liked using Google Assistant too. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's similar to Siri. But Siri's getting better. I mean, she's just getting better. So shout out to
she needs to. She needs a little help.
She needs a little help. Because Google Assistant is still better overall, I would say, just as far as accuracy and the in depth of information you can get quickly on your phone. But Siri is just so convenient to like do things like almost like as you would with like Alexa or something. You're calling, you're asking it to do different things for you. Hey, get directions to this place or whatever, and it's just getting it for you.
So do you buy into the voice user experience really being the user experience of the future?
You know what? I think it is a lot easier. There's something about audio that you can just consume it in so many different places. And I think that if on the other side, if it can translate, and for instance, like, we've always imagined the dictation process, but it's still a little clunky. I mean, some of them are really good, but if it was perfect, I think that we would be all speaking into our computers.
Yeah, when that assistant can turn around and call people for you, like, Google's demo of the hair salon appointment.
Right. Yeah.
Real, I think we then reach an inflection point with voice assistants.
Yeah, I think audio. I mean, the reason why podcasts are so popular is because you can consume it in multiple places that you can't consume video.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you can't really watch a full. I mean, you can. You see people at the gym on their device watching a movie or something. Like, why are you at the gym? Shouldn't you be here sweating, watching TV?
You see him driving down the road watching videos.
Oh,
too.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Doing a podcast.
Yeah, obviously the podcast is a little safer. Spotify or Pandora?
I am a little too much of a Apple fanboy, so I'm on
Apple Music.
Whatever the iTunes subscription is called, Apple Music.
Yeah, Apple Music now. Movies or video games?
Video games. You know what? VR really got me back into video games.
Really?
Grew up on video games, and you have to be a pretty serious geek to use VR at this point. My wife won't be caught dead in the headset, and so that has to be overcome at some point. But it's such a great immersive experience. It's really driving one of the startups that I'm working on that gives you that VR type of experience without needing to wear any technology. So essentially AR, but no glasses, goggles, or anything.
Oh, wow.
Projecting the entire environment around you. And
wow.
I think those kinds of immersive entertainment experiences have just massive potential.
Absolutely.
We have this incredible company in Santa Fe, New Mexico called Meow Wolf that if you've never seen it, it's totally worth checking out. George R.R. Martin bought a bowling alley that had gone out of business and gave it to this art collective who built this just incredible experience that you walk into. It's a story that you walk through and experience. And now they're building them in Denver, Las Vegas, Washington.
Wow. Really?
this is a whole new area of entertainment, and Electric Playhouse is the startup that I'm working on, which is sort of the digital version of that. How do we digitally drive that so that we can have constantly changing content?
Wow, that's fascinating. Electric Playhouse. I'll have to check them out too. That's cool. Yeah, I think I agree. What VR set do you use specifically?
I'm on Oculus. I just got
Oculus. Yep.
The new one. What's it called? Quest, that doesn't need a computer. Which, it takes such a heavy computer to use the current generation of headsets that I think being standalone will make a big difference. Makes it much more accessible.
So the actual headset itself has the computing power?
It does. It's not quite as good of an experience as the Oculus, but it's pretty close, and you don't have to have a $1,500 computer in order to power it.
Right. Do you, for you, just what kind of games do you like to play on there? What things do intrigue you?
I really like real-time strategy games and things that the thing that's great about VR is you're playing a game, but it gets you moving. So things like Beat Saber that you get a workout while you're playing a game. That's kind of ideal for me because I have a tough time working out without there being something else going on.
Sure. If you can do two things with once, and also I think with working out, you just need to switch it up, not just be doing one thing. You're just constantly switching up. So that's fun. You're doing VR, you're doing, whatever kind of different types of workouts you can do. That's awesome.
And it's still early days, but I think we're going to see a lot of applications of VR in business. Such a great training environment. And you see some big companies like Walmart doing it now. And so that it's so challenging to keep your workforce constantly up to date. This is a really great way to get that kind of engagement.
Yeah, I was thinking like they're going to be using VR for like home tours and like anything where you have to tour a building, maybe, you just throw on the headset and just go and check it out right there instead of going like you just could check out 10 places at once.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of having to go check out 10 houses and home shopping, you'd be like, browsing the houses on your VR set and allowing yourself to save yourself some time.
Yeah. It's extending this ability that we have to really be anywhere now. So I get to live in this amazing place in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's in flyover country. It's an amazing way of life. But, thanks to the internet, I can be here, build companies here that serve clients all over the country and the world. And so it's starting to break down those, there's still lots of reasons to be in Silicon Valley, but
right.
It's making it so much easier to build really amazing companies just anywhere. And I think VR is just going to add a whole nother layer to that, to that capability.
It's a great point. Do you like to read books or listen to books?
I really love my Kindle.
Yeah.
Being able to just take a library with me everywhere is awesome. I've been a pretty big fan of Audible, but podcasts have kind of taken over that for me.
Yeah, because a lot of them are free too.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just so much great, relevant, right now, really targeted stuff that you can get in podcasts.
Yeah, it's insane. When I started 3 years ago, it was like, okay, people are doing podcasts. It was a plunge, it's kind of like, oh, this is new, but could it go, two ways? It's like going to go where people are liking it, or it's going to go where people are like, not doing it anymore. But really people have taken off. Everybody's doing a podcast now. Like if you look at like celebrities and different types of people, like personalities, they all kind of have their own show now. It's insane.
Yeah. And it gives you, that direct audience, that ability is just amazing. And there's something different about when you hear somebody's voice. The internet opened up that concept, but just the kind of connection you get when you have the kind of conversation that you and I are having right now.
Right.
I think that's what makes it so appealing.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you get that different types of insights that you won't get in a book because it's pretty much scripted. You're reading the script. Some authors will go off the script, like Gary Vaynerchuk or some of these guys that are reading their Audible. It's like completely different than the book because basically they're going off script the whole time.
I think he lives off script.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he just knows how to live off script. But yeah, for the majority, they're reading it just as the book would read. So it's not like you're getting this kind of insights that come to you as like you would in an interview. Stocks, crypto, or real estate?
So I have a bit of, despite being such a geek and being immersed in technology my whole life, and I think there is an amazing future for crypto, but I have a bit of a Warren Buffett's view of that, which is there really isn't a there today until you really get a fully functioning currency. And so I invest in private equity. So
yeah, private equity.
I'm not in the stock market, and the reason for that, which from a pure investment standpoint, over the last 8 years or whatever that time period has been, is not a great decision. But I much prefer to invest in things that I can have an impact on, right. Because I have so much exposure in private equity. I don't want to be in public equities, and I don't want my mood tied to what's going on in the stock market today.
Yeah, definitely. You're right about that. I mean, the one way I always look at it, for those that aren't, obviously, because, let's just be real, to have private equity, you got to have big money most of the time. I mean, there's obviously crowd, seed funding, seed invest, Republic, and I've actually joined on some of those and early on, took advantage of that. You still got to have money to do that. Their average deal size $1,000. But obviously private equity, bigger money, right? So, but just remember this, folks, if you're in the stock market, it's the same thing as private equity. You're owning shares in the business, and it doesn't matter what that stock symbol says. Just remember, you own a share in the business. Warren Buffett would say, if the stock market closed for 10 years, would you still own that company?
Yeah, and in private equity, that's exactly what you're doing, because
right.
the market really is typically closed for 10 years. That's how long it takes to get a payoff.
Right. Have you ever done stuff in the secondary markets, like the share posts and some of those ones where they're kind of selling their secondary shares?
I have not, and it's mainly I've been involved in a ton of startups, and you really have to have a home run level for it to make sense to be involved in the secondary markets.
Right.
And our biggest exit to date has been $90 million.
That's
which,
excellent.
Is great. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is being part of creating that startup that really helps put the ecosystem here in New Mexico on the map. Right. And now we have companies that are on that trend line, and it's really exciting to be part of that.
That's awesome, man. So do you mind me asking, what is your average deal size that you like to take a part of? Is it 10 grand, 100 grand, 50 grand, $1 million?
So I prefer to be more focused on a fewer number of deals where I can have a bigger impact.
Right.
And so we've done this through an angel fund with partners, and our average total investment per deal is in the $1.5 million range.
Got you. But you're working with other guys that you have your own fund. That's awesome, man. I think that is fabulous. But you like to be able to really impact them. So you really have to be selective in saying no, because I'm sure you have a lot of people saying, hey, Bill, you got a big checkbook, man. Let's get that $1.5 million deal over here, and you probably have to say no a few times, right?
It's tough because there are so many great ideas out there, but everything that I've done that wasn't in an area that I understood well, turns out that hasn't worked out terribly great. So staying in things where I really understand that market and can really be helpful. And frankly, if you have a great idea and you're raising money, it's much more about getting the value beyond the money. Right. You're looking for everything else that comes with that check. Now you've got somebody who's in there with you, and you want somebody who's gonna be pulling hard on that. And it is so easy to bring investors into a startup that do a lot more harm than good.
Right. Yeah, they want you to exit too fast. You hear all these different stories of they're getting pushed around. The company's getting pushed around by their investors. It's happening right now with that activist supposedly on Sony. I just saw this news this morning. One of the guys is an activist investor. He's taking a stance that he wants them to do certain things. Right. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it's a balancing act between good governance but when we're talking at the startup stage, you're really investing in the team. If you don't believe in the team, then it doesn't make sense to be in that deal anyway. And you get the wrong mix of investors, then you're spending all this time just managing that, as opposed to doing the thing that's really important, which is having a major impact on the market.
Right.
The reason I didn't like being part of a large company, so the only time I've ever work for somebody was in selling my first company. And that,
Mhm.
that got me on a management team of a really big company, which was a great learning experience. But typically in a large company, you're much more involved in the internal politics than you are what are we doing for our clients. And that just isn't interesting to me. It's what is the thing that we can change? I mean, what was Jobs' famous line about just wanting to put a dent in the universe or change the world a little bit? That general feeling that's why you work in startups. It's why we're doing the thing that we're talking about here of how do we help companies get to market? Because in the end, whatever you're doing, that it just turns out to always be the hardest part.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So it's so interesting. It's so interesting. When you wake up in your morning and you're getting ready for the day right now, what is one of your biggest passions?
The thing that makes, so this isn't exactly the question you're asking, but the thing that makes my day better every day is when I take the time to meditate in the morning.
Ooh, nice.
Because then it really gets me focused on what's important, right? It's so easy to get involved, and I fall into this trap all the time of getting caught up in whatever the sort of latest non-emergency thing is.
Right.
And I found meditation to be a really powerful way to stay focused on what's truly important. And so when you're running a company, it's really about how are you leading your team, and how does that translate into the results that you're producing for your clients. And I think as a CEO, you need to wake up every day with that's the thing that's on your mind. And it's tough to do, right? It's really difficult to work on the business instead of just in the business.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's so hard. I mean, that is truly the hardest part, I think. There's a lot of people that have different strategies, right? But it's so hard at the end of the day when you're fighting a fire and you having to deal with it. Say one of your team members made an error. Hey, that's on you. You know what I mean? You started the business and they did this. Hey, that's on you. That's the way I look at it. You know what I mean? If you're the owner, it's your business.
I agree.
So also my question to you, my man, is at the end of a long day, say this weekend, you've had a long week, it's Friday, you're getting ready for the weekend. What is one of your favorite meals to sit down to and enjoy?
Well, so I'm sitting here in New Mexico. This is the land of red chili. So
oh yeah,
make anything that has red chili on it, and I'm gonna be a happy man.
Nice. I know my dad said they had some very interesting different spices and flavors, and he was loving all the different dishes. A lot of Southwest influence, right, in New Mexico. Yeah,
New Mexico's really a food category of its own, and it's a little bit addictive. So you don't want to go down that path unless you're willing to move here or get regular shipments.
Yeah, get some shipments. Get that red chili shipment. I'm interested now. I'm like, what red chili? I have to look up that on Amazon or on Google. What skill do you want to master right now? Is there something you're working on to master? Something different? Something new?
Well, so I'm a late to the game compared to you, but I have a lot of focus on podcasting right now, and
Absolutely.
So being great at doing this, I've you're talking about everybody's got a podcast, and I have launched our first podcast.
Nice, good job.
I want to be great at doing that.
What is the podcast called so we can put it in the show notes?
It is B2B word of mouth marketing. It's
nice. Okay.
The very thing that I am passionate about and that we're doing. And, and we learned so much in doing this that it just seemed like a great idea to turn around and share the things that we have learned and sort of lay that playbook out.
Are you doing it mostly like you talking or interviewing people?
Well, so we're still early. So right now, Erin Barrio is one of our marketing strategists. And so she and I are doing it together.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So it's kind of conversational back and forth, talking about topics and stuff.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
We're really focused on the first 10 episodes of laying that playbook out. Like, here's what we found in following the data. It's really clear what, essentially every B2B business ought to be doing. There's a core set of strategies and some specific tactics within that just, as long as what you're doing is pretty impactful and a fairly high ticket item. I mean, things change when you get into higher volume, more transactional type sales. But if you've got a sales team and it's relationship driven, then there's a foundational approach that you just need to take to your marketing. And we've seen that in the data. It works over and over again, and you just got to make the investment and do it.
Ooh, I love that. Do you also have a favorite app that you like using on a daily basis on your iPad?
I'm a fan of a lot of things. So, we run on the G Suite, and so the Google set of apps are great on the iPad because you can actually get, real work done in slides and sheets and so on. Been using Evernote ever since it came out.
So Evernote's one of your other favorite ones you like using?
Yeah, I mean, for some reason I can't remember everything the same way that I used to. So keeping notes is a really good idea.
Yeah, and especially because it can be on like multiple devices. So you go to a different device, your notes are still there. It's very helpful.
Yeah, it's really nice having everything with you, and you can put everything in Evernote, so you can send emails, send documents. The scanning capability is just as good as the standalone scanning apps. Mm-hmm. So I don't even have a physical scanner anymore. I just
isn't that crazy? Things have changed. I always like that visual where it's like 50 devices, or not 50, but it's like 15 or different things now are actually in your phone, like calculators, a phone, or a photography device, video camera. Just all these different things are packed into this phone now. It's amazing.
Yeah, I really don't like, I don't know about you, but I just don't like paper. And so if it's important to me, then I'm going to scan it in Evernote, and now I can actually find it. And it's,
right.
Just a huge advance. We're really not living in the paperless office. I think we print more stuff than ever, but being able to capture that and keep track of everything is just been awesome.
It's vital. Yeah, it's vital. Now, be real. If you could sit down for lunch with some red chili on something good with anyone in the world, if you could sit down with anyone in the world today for lunch, who would it be?
I'm reading Seth Godin's new book,
nice,
which is really good. So if I were going to pick somebody off the top of my head right now, it would be Seth, because I really love the clear way. I mean, so much of marketing gets tied into things that they're frankly are gimmicky. Mm-hmm. And what really works is the consistency and truly having a unique proposition and finding ways to communicate that to the market. And I think Seth does such a great job of showing people the reality of that marketing is not a set of tactics. It is a much larger strategy that you've really got to buy into and make fundamental in your business if you're going to achieve the success that you're capable of.
Right. So true, man. He always hits you in the mouth too, with just some really great knowledge. Ever since I read Purple Cow, I was like, man, this guy is just unbelievable. And even his blogs, because like he'll blog and then it's like sometimes it's very short and sometimes it's in depth. He doesn't care. He just keeps blogging. It's amazing. Do you have a favorite show or something to do at night? Do you have something you like to enjoy when you sit down with your wife and hang out?
So the thing we love doing is mountain biking. So
nice.
We're surrounded by hundreds of miles of trails here. I actually live in the mountains just outside of Albuquerque, and that's really the appeal is access to the outdoors.
Oh yeah.
So we'll ride first thing in the morning or in the early evening. So I find that very, very relaxing.
That is awesome. Do you have a goal or anything like that you do with your mountain biking, or is it just mostly for leisure too as well?
Yeah, I mean it's how I get exercise, because it's actually fun.
Oh yeah.
Therefore, I can do it. So it's a great workout, and there's a lot of aggressive technical trails here that
get you sweating good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, every time I hop on a bike, I just start smiling. I don't know why. My wife's like, "You're so cheesy." I'm like, "I can't help it. It's just fun. It's fun to be on a dang bike." Right now, it's 106 where we live, so it's not as fun to be on a bike outside right now in Fresno. But
No, you gotta get up early.
Peek your windows at 4 a.m.
Yes.
But riding a bike, there's nothing like it. If you could give our listeners one last real talk thought, what would that be?
You know, I've said this a few times, but I just want to emphasize that what we see in the data, what we see in success with our clients is that it's consistency that really makes marketing work. You've got to buy into a strategy for the long term. It's really pretty straightforward what you ought to be doing. The hard part is actually doing it day in and day out. That is the thing that every business struggles with because, you know, it works, you get busy and then you sort of let it slide and then things slow down again. You get back to it. You need this just consistent effort. It's kind of like, you know, Chinese water drip torture. You just have to do it every day, day in and day out. And I know it's boring. It's not, you know, it's not an exciting stock tip, but it's what actually works.
Right.
And so you have to make that long-term commitment, and the payoff is tremendous when you actually do that.
Absolutely. And where's the best place for people to find you if they want to get some more in contact with you?
So boomtime.com is a great place to check out our company. I love talking to business owners and people that are responsible for marketing. My email is ceo@boomtime.com. So easy to find me, and I'm of course on LinkedIn all the time. So that's a great place also.
Well, sir, I just want to thank you again for your time and energy today. I think, you know, obviously you have an amazing business practice already set up, but I think more and more businesses are going to be working with you guys. And then also I'm excited for you and your startups, man. I think that what you're talking to me about, some of this VR stuff, man, I think it could be huge. So could have some big exits in the future, my man. Folks, you've been hanging out with Bill Bice and Travis Too Tall and Huff. I want to thank you again for your time today, and let's keep being real. What another epic episode. And if you enjoyed the episode today, can you please do me a favor and subscribe to our podcast, The Be Real Show, on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. And also take a little time today, if you don't mind, and give your boy T Huff a review. I would really super appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening today.